Okay, I'm back at it. It's about a week, let's say, since I worked on this last. And the sole on my shoe is still about half falling off. It's going to be a while before I can do anything about that, but we have some progress on the trailer here. Got some lights in. Got some nice holes done. So that's what I'm going to talk about right now is how do you make nice, well, maybe that's not the prettiest one, but how do you make nice trailer light holes like this? I plasma torch these in. Usually I just use the acetylene torch. It's more or less the same process. You're just going to have to do less cleanup with a plasma torch. I free-handed these. There are a couple ways I guess you could do a bit of a guide. I thought maybe running a make my lines here, and I guess I'll show you quick how I do the layout if I can find a grommet. Maybe here we go. Here's one. So obviously you don't want to go too big on these, because then what do? Well, you're probably going to end up having to run some beads of weld on here to build your material back up, and then grind it flush and all that, make it look pretty, which would really suck. But it's pretty hard to go too big on these. They have a lot of play in there, but when you go to put these lights in, they do need to be snug so they don't just fall out either. That being said, there is, I don't know, maybe 1/8 of an inch, maybe more tolerance that you could have. So when I did my layout for these, I just took my chalk line and I put these on here, and I took the chalk line and I traced the outer edge of these. And then when I plasma torched them, I cut directly on the line. And even then, it still gave me enough that I had to grind these down a fair bit. But with the plasma torch, you're gonna have a really nice, clean cut, and the swath that it takes out is going to be pretty narrow, so you can cut right on the line, because it's only going to be 1/8 of an inch path that you're going to cut at the most. And with an acetylene torch, maybe you're going to want to stay just a little bit on the inside. Also, maybe you're not going to have as nice of a cut with a acetylene torch, so you're probably going to want to give yourself a little bit. After you do your first one, you'll see where you need to cut for the rest of them. So if you cut a little undersized on the first one, you might have to do a little bit of work touching it up, but then at least you for the rest of them, and you didn't end up cutting it too big, which is exactly how it turned out for me. So again, one of the other things that you can do to make your life a little bit easier, if not that great with the torch, is you can take a zip disc and you can zip cut this top line and this bottom line, and then you'll only end up having to torch cut the circle here. You're going to end up being stuck having to torch cut this whole circle. And maybe, I didn't do this, but maybe it wouldn't be too bad of an idea to just cut half and then reposition and cut the other half. You'll find that I don't have the torch here. I wish I could do a bit of a show for you here, but basically you're going to want to brace yourself, get up nice tight against the machine, and then you can telescope the torch in and out of your hand, and then use that as kind of, you're going around there, and then reposition yourself, and then telescope, and then you can go like that, right? This is going to be pretty shit tutorial for doing this, because I'm not actually showing you, but these are the things that I usually do when I'm torching these in. So another thing that I do, which you probably don't need to do, but you're going to end up having a bit of a cleaner job, is I will drill a pilot hole, usually about a 3/16 inch bit, to get my torch started. It's just going to make life easier. So each one of these, I did my pilot hole right on the edge here, and then it's just way easier to start. You're not blowing a bunch of molten steel back in your face, starting your hole off, especially if this is already sealed and all that. It doesn't really have any place for the air to go, so everything just comes right back in at you. And maybe that's it. What else do we have to say about putting these stupid lights in? You know, just be sure that you're not going to cut too close to the edge. Remember how all this flares out. These grommets flare out. I am going to wire this in a bit. Maybe I'll make another video about that. This is going to be where my wires come in at. I have a distribution block coming off the factory. I have an adapter and then distribution block. All my wires will end up coming into here. I'm going to open this up. I was going to do it with a torch, but I forgot, so maybe I'll just hit it with a bit. And then when I run my wires in through here, actually that's another thing I need to mention is touching up the inner edges of these. You don't want any sharp edges in here for your wires to rub up against, because you're going to just cause yourself a lot of problems down the road. So this hole, they make special grommets that you can drill that hole size to, and then that will keep your wires off the edge. What I'm going to end up doing, because I just don't feel like driving to town, is I'm just going to wrap a bunch of electrical tape around my wire, and then I will probably, they have this stuff called butyl tape. It's basically just like a tar putty, and then I will pack the hole full of this tar putty to keep the water out. I'll show you one of the tools I use for cleaning my edges. You could use a die grinder or flapper wheels. I actually have these, what do we call them, honing stones. So this right here, I mean, it's about a 2-inch diameter, which works out perfectly. So I grind, and touch them up really nice. That's going to take a lot of meat off. So if you undersize this, maybe, you know, if you're a little bit afraid you're going to undersize it, grab one of those honing stones, and then you can really take a lot of meat off, touch this up nicely, or else you're going to be spending hours here with a die grinder trying to get that nice. If you're trying to open it up with the die grinder, it's a real pain in the ass trying to open this up with a torch. If you cut it too small, like just taking a little bit off, basically you just end up piling up tons of slag here. Even more difficult to clean up with your die grinder. So, you know, you kind of want to try to get that on the first try if you don't have proper grinding tools. You know, I hit this even with the flat parts of the grinding wheel. These here, it's pretty tough to do with a flat wheel. So you're going to be either need to be doing your die grinder or your honing stone. But that's pretty much it for doing the light holes.